Level 1. The geometry of dust. You were born not to a cradle, but to a construction site. In the shadow of the great walls of Babylon, your father, a master builder, didn't teach you to play with toys. He taught you to read the language of the earth. By the age of 6, you knew that the mud of the Euphrates, when mixed with the right amount of straw and baked in the relentless Mesopotamian sun, became the bone of the empire. You grew up in a house filled with reed styluses and clay, tablets covered in complex geometric proofs. While other children chased donkeys through the narrow, crowded streets, you were measuring the angles of shadows to calculate the height of the neighborhood temple. Babylon in the morning is a sensory overload. The air smells of bitumen, the black tar used to waterproof the cities, foundations, and freshly baked bread. You learned early that a single crack in a sun-baked brick wasn't just a mistake. It was a bad omen. Your father would tell you, the gods live in the symmetry of our lines. This wasn't a metaphor. If a wall collapsed, it was believed the god of that house had fled in anger. You spent your days helping grind the minerals used for pigments: ochre for red, lapis for blue. Your hands were permanently stained, a mark of your caste. You didn't know it yet, but you were being prepared to design the impossible. The city was growing. King Nebuchadnezzar's ambitions were expanding, and the old architects were dying. The empire needed new visionaries who understood that a city is not just a collection of buildings, but a living organism made of clay, water, and human will. You took your first steps toward the palace, clutching a tablet that held a design for a new granary, your first contribution to the skyline. Level 2. The Blue Gate's shadow. At 16, the palace is no longer a distant monument. It is your workplace. You have been appointed as a junior overseer for the most ambitious project in a century, the Ishtar Gate. This isn't a mere entrance. It is a statement of divine power. Your job is to supervise the glazing process of thousands of bricks. The secret to the deep, vibrant blue, the color of the evening sky, is a closely guarded temple secret involving cobalt and copper. One wrong temperature in the kiln and the entire batch turns a dull, muddy brown. The pressure is suffocating. If the bricks aren't perfect, the high priest will claim the goddess Ishtar is offended, and the blame will fall squarely on your young shoulders. The construction site is a city within a city. You navigate through a maze of scaffolding, shouting orders in a mix of Akkadian and Aramaic to laborers brought from the corners of the known world. You learn the politics of stone. Some officials try to bribe you to use inferior timber so they can pocket the silver meant for cedar. You have to decide. Do you take the gold and stay silent, or do you risk an accident on the scaffolding by reporting them? Every night, you inspect the figures of the bulls and dragons, the Surish, being molded into the walls. They must look alive, their muscles tensed as if guarding the city from the spirits of the desert. You sleep on a mat in the architect's quarters, your ears ringing with the sound of hammers and the chants of the workers. You realize that to build a monument, you must first build a reputation. One morning, the king himself visits the site. He doesn't look at the gold. He looks at the alignment of the bricks. He catches your eye and asks a single question about the foundation's depth. Your answer saves your life or marks it forever. Level 3. Defying the gravity of the gods. The king has a new obsession. His Median queen, Ametis, misses the green mountains of her homeland, and the flat, dusty plains of Babylon are a prison to her. The command is issued: build a mountain in the desert. This is the birth of the Hanging Gardens. You are now a lead designer, facing a problem that has never been solved. How do you keep thousands of tons of wet earth from rotting the mud brick terraces beneath them? How do you move the waters of the Euphrates upward against the very laws of nature? You spend sleepless nights designing a system of chain pumps and bronze screws, powered by the endless labor of oxen and men. This is the peak of your technical genius. You introduce layers of lead and reeds between the soil and the brickwork to prevent leaks, a secret technique that makes the other architects whisper of sorcery. The atmosphere at the site is tense. Priests argue that such a structure mocks the heavens, while the queen's entourage complains that the trees aren't growing fast enough. You are caught in the middle of a logistical nightmare. You have to coordinate the arrival of exotic plants from the east while ensuring the structural integrity of the stone pillars. One afternoon, a massive stone beam cracks during a lift. The silence that follows is terrifying. You have to decide in seconds how to stabilize the terrace before it collapses, like a house of cards. You learn that an architect's greatest tool isn't his stylus, but his ability to stay calm when the world is literally falling apart. You manage to save the structure, but the cost in human labor weighs on you. You realize that the mountain you are building is watered not just by the river, but by the sweat of 1,000 broken men. Level 4. The Calculus of the Ziggurat. The Itamananki, the great Ziggurat of Marduk, is the center of the universe. It is the foundation of heaven and earth, but the ancient tower is leaning. Years of river seepage have softened the ground beneath its massive weight. You are called to the summit, the highest point in the world, to find a way to stabilize the 7-staged mountain. At this height, the wind screams, and the people below look like ants. You are working in the realm of the gods, and the stakes are no longer just professional. They are cosmic. If the tower falls, it is believed the world will end in chaos. You spend your days measuring the stars and the incline of the walls with a plumb line. You discover that the previous builders took shortcuts in the inner core, using unbaked rubble instead of solid brick. You must now perform a surgical repair on a monument that is hundreds of years old. This involves injecting liquid bitumen into the gaps and reinforcing the base with massive limestone blocks brought from the northern quarries. The high priest watches your every move, suspicious of your foreign mathematical methods. He believes only prayer can save the tower. You believe in the strength of the arch. You have to conduct your work with a balance of ritual and engineering. Before every major stone is laid, you must participate in a sacrifice to appease the spirits of the earth. You are living a double life, a scientist in your mind, and a servant of the temple in your actions. The tower eventually steadies, but you have seen the rot at the center of the empire's holiest site. It is a lesson you will never forget. Even the tallest monuments are built on unstable ground. Level 5. The Economics of the Arch. As a senior royal architect, your duties move from the scaffolding to the ledger. You are now responsible for the royal treasury's construction budget. This level is about the business of Babylon. You oversee the brick-making guilds, the timber imports from Lebanon, and the silver payments for the specialized stone cutters. You realize that a city isn't just built of stone. It's built of debt and interest. You spend your mornings in the counting houses, verifying the weight of silver shekels. Corruption is everywhere. A merchant tries to sell you cedar that is actually painted pine. A contractor claims he used 10,000 bricks when he only used 8,000. You must become a detective. You develop a system of stamped bricks, each brick fired for a royal project must bear the king's seal and a mark identifying the kill it came from. This creates a trail of accountability. You are no longer just an engineer. You are an auditor. This makes you many enemies. One night, while walking through the Weaver's District, you are ambushed by hired thugs sent by a disgruntled supplier. You survive, but the incident changes you. You realize that the beauty of the Ishtar Gate is funded by the harsh taxation of the provinces. You see the legal tablets that record the seizure of lands from farmers who couldn't pay their temple tax. The grand temples you help maintain are also the city's largest banks. You sit in on meetings with the king's advisors, discussing the urban sprawl of Babylon. The city is becoming too crowded, and the sanitation systems you designed are failing. You are forced to choose between building a new palace for a prince or a new sewer system for the slums. The king chooses the palace. You build it, but you make sure the drainage is better than he asked for, hidden beneath the luxury. Level 6. Siege walls and the engineering of war. The peace of the empire is fragile. Rumors of a Persian uprising in the east reach the palace. The king's tone changes. From build me beauty to build me a fortress. You are tasked with the ultimate defensive project, the Great Wall of Media and the reinforcement of Babylon's double wall system. This is no longer about aesthetics. It is about survival. You must design walls that can withstand the impact of battering rams and the heat of fire arrows. You study the physics of the moat, a massive ditch filled with the waters of the Euphrates that circles the city. The engineering challenge is terrifying. You must create a system of sluice gates that can flood the surrounding plains at a moment's notice, turning the approach to the city into a swamp. You work alongside the generals who have no patience for architectural flourishes. They want kill zones, towers for archers, and hidden sally ports for counterattacks. You find yourself designing Scorpion engines, large mechanical crossbows, mounted on the ramparts. The city is becoming a machine of war. As the walls grow higher, the atmosphere in the city becomes claustrophobic. The open markets are replaced by weapon depots. You see the fear in the citizens' eyes as they watch you measure the thickness of the gates. You are the man who knows exactly how strong the city is and exactly where its weaknesses lie. You discover a flaw in the river wall, a place where the current is eroding the foundation. If the Persians find it, the city falls. You have to fix it in secret, at night, using divers and underwater masonry, so as not to start a panic. You are the silent guardian of 1,000,000 lives, and the weight of that responsibility is heavier than any stone. Level 7. The labyrinth beneath the throne. The king has grown paranoid. He fears assassins and usurpers within his own court. He summons you to the palace for a private commission. He wants a network of secret passages, escape routes, and hidden listening chambers built into the very walls of the southern palace. You are the only person who will know the true layout of the king's private world. This is the most dangerous job you have ever taken. In Babylon, knowing the king's secrets is a death sentence. You work with a small, hand-picked crew of mutesmen who cannot speak of what they see. You design whispering galleries where a person standing in a specific corner can hear a conversation held 100 feet away in the throne room. You build hidden doors disguised as decorative, friezes and trapdoors that lead to the river tunnels. You are literally weaving a web of stone around the monarchy. As you work, you overhear fragments of treasonous conversations. You learn which generals are plotting and which concubines are in league with foreign spies. You are no longer just an architect. You are the keeper of the palace's dark heart. The king rewards you with gold and titles, but you feel like a prisoner. You know that once the labyrinth is finished, the king might decide you are too dangerous to keep alive. You start to design a secret of your own, a hidden exit from the palace that only you know about. A fail-safe for the man who knows too much. You realize that in the world of power, architecture is a weapon. The walls you build to protect the king are the same walls that will eventually entomb. Level 8. The Great Flood and the Architect's Choice. The gods of Mesopotamia are fickle, and their anger often comes in the form of water. A massive storm in the northern mountains sends a wall of water down the Euphrates. This is the great flood of your generation. The river rises beyond anything recorded in the temple tablets. The dikes and levees you built are being pushed to their breaking point. You are woken in the Fayum, middle of the night, by the sound of bells and the screams of the people in the lower city. The water is already knee-deep in the streets near the river. The king's guard arrives at your door. They don't ask for your help. They demand it. You are taken to the great sluice gate. If you open the gates to save the lower city where the laborers and poor live, the sudden rush of water might undermine the foundations of the Ishtar gate and the royal docks. If you keep them closed, the lower city will be wiped off the map. It is a cold, mathematical choice. The high priest demands the gates stay closed to protect the temples. The people are banging on the palace gates, begging for mercy. You look at your maps, calculating the flow rates and the structural load. You find a third option, a risky maneuver, to divert the water into the royal hunting parks and the estates of the nobility. It will destroy the king's private gardens, but save the city. You have to act without the king's permission. You rally your team and manually break the secondary levee. The water roars into the luxury estates. The city is saved, but you have destroyed the property of the most powerful men in the empire. You stand in the mud as the sun rises, knowing that tomorrow you will have to face the king's wrath for your mercy. Level 9, the master of the royal works. Years have passed. You are now the Rab Benedi, the master builder of Babylon. Your hair is the color of the limestone you love, and your hands are calloused from a lifetime of holding the stylus and the level. You are the most respected man in the city, second only to the king and the high priest. Your name is stamped on millions of bricks across the empire. You no longer climb the scaffolding, but your mind still wanders through every corridor and tunnel you ever designed. You spend your days in the royal archive, organizing the vast collection of architectural tablets for future generations. Young students from the temple school come to you to learn the secrets of the arch. You teach them that an architect must understand the soul of the people as much as the strength of the stone. You see your son, now a man, working on the restoration of the old summer palace. You feel a sense of pride, but also a lingering sadness. You know how much blood is hidden behind the beautiful blue glaze of the city. You oversee the census, realizing that the city you helped build now holds nearly 200,000 souls, the largest city in the history of the world. You have designed the markets where the world's trade meets, the courts where justice is administered, and the temples where the gods are fed. But you also see the cracks. The empire is overextended, the taxes are too high, and the new king is not the man his father was. You spend your evenings on your rooftop, looking at the hanging gardens. They are beautiful, but you know the pumps are wearing out. You realize that your legacy is not in the stone itself, but in the knowledge you pass on. You begin writing your own manual of the F&Co works, a guide for those who will have to rebuild when the walls eventually fall. Level 10, the last tablet and the dust of time. Babylon is under siege. This time, it feels different. The Persian king Cyrus is at the gates, and the city's internal defenses are crumbling from within. You are an old man now, watching the end of an era. The king asks you to find a way to stop the Persians from diverting the river, but you know it's too late. The engineering of the enemy is as brilliant as your own was in your youth. You walk through the Ishtar gate one last time, touching the cold, smooth blue bricks. You remember the heat of the kilns and the smell of the bitumen from 50 years ago. You retreat to your private workshop. You aren't building a wall. You are building a time capsule. You take your most important tablets, the designs for the gardens, the secret maps of the palace, the mathematical proofs for the Ziggurat, and you seal them in a series of lead-lined jars. You hide them in a secret chamber you built decades ago, beneath the floor of the Great Archive, a place only an architect could find. As the sounds of the cities fall echo through the streets, the crashing of gates and the shouting of soldiers, you sit quietly with a piece of clay and a stylus. You write your final entry. I built for the gods, I built for the kings. but in the end, I built for the dust. Let the one who finds this know that we were here, and we reached for the stars. You hear the Persian soldiers entering the courtyard. You don't run. You are a builder of Babylon, and you will remain with your masterpiece until the very end. Your life ends as it began, with the smell of wet clay and the sound of the river, leaving behind a city that will be remembered for 3,000 years.